Hi, Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. When I started making these videos, I committed to sharing my journey into wood turning, and it has done personally me a lot of good as I explore different avenues and different ways to turn and materials to turn and methods to turn. I hope that you've been able to derive benefit from this also. But sometimes it's 2 or 3 different threads that come together. I build on other people's work. I try to extend it beyond, make it my own. And that's the case also now. For example, 9 years ago or so, somebody asked me how would I design a chuck or a jig to sand the outside of a bracelet. I devised one. It's kind of awkward to use, but it did the trick. And then a couple of weeks ago, Kip Christiansen did a demonstration at our club meeting. He cited a fair amount of progress made by Nelson Kassinger, who actually I met several years ago also and went and visited him at his home in Las Vegas. He had a garage full of partially made and in progress bracelets. Did fantastic work. He has passed now, but so there seemed to be a progression in terms of ways to handle things, and some of what Kip showed was a progression where he was doing a form and then putting a bolt through into a nut to be able to cinch down a top. Well, I think that's good, and maybe the level that I would go to next would be to put a nut to receive, but then put different sizes on, because one of the problems is that bracelets are not one size fits all. Larger size is probably 3 inches on the inside, smaller is 2 3/8 perhaps. In any case, you've got to handle different sizes. So perhaps that would adapt to different sizes, and I think it could. But I decided to take it a step further, and I thought about Longworth chucks. What's a Longworth chuck? Well, it consists of 2 plates, such as this. They're bound in the center. The center's gone from this now. Nubs here that on the outside that actually will scroll in and scroll out to hold the work. So this is a large one. I use this for positioning and segmented work. I don't use it for turning because I have a set of cold jaws, and I think that does a better job of holding for in general purposes. However, I also use this Longworth chuck. This is I use primarily for segmenting because it's mounted and I can then easily adapt it. I've changed some things on it because I find it handy. The buttons on the front receive a head of a bolt, and they are oval, so that when I'm compressing it in against a piece to hold, if I can get the wing nut started on the back, if there's any twist to the bolt on the front, it tends to snug up, and I don't have to have 2 tools in order to adjust it. Not having a lot of tools hanging around, I think, is a big plus. Now, let's bring that to now with the bracelets. The biggest problem for a bracelet is adjusting to the different widths. So why not? Could we use a Longworth chuck there? Generally, when you see a Longworth demonstrated, and there's a ton of resources on the web for them, you see it big because the use case is generally holding a bolt to turn the bottom. But can it be used for a bracelet? And I think so, so I've been working on that, but in this case, I want the Longworth chuck to be almost as small as possible and allow it to slide in and out. And maybe different styles of buttons. This is the equivalent one that is oval, so it will cinch up. These are just plain platform ones that I could put in. This is just a plain button. This one's at a large oval that absolutely will cinch up. And then wing nuts on the back. That works. I can make it small. This is probably too small for some of the larger chucks, especially if I need to hold the outside to do the inside. So maybe I need 2 or 3 of them. One for the headstock, one for the tailstock. Again, mounting it to a revolving threaded center works great. So in this video I will show you making or how, the theory at least, of making a Longworth chuck and what I've done there. Each of these that I have made now then with a bolt here will thread onto a faceplate. In this case it's a skinny top so that I can be really cinched up, otherwise the bolts would interfere. Or this one is for larger, more normal work where I want a bigger base but the bolts don't have to be close in. So I'll do that in this video, and then I think in the next one I'll actually show you making the first bracelet that I came off of this chuck and some of the other tools and techniques that I'm using for the bracelet. So that's next week. This week let's just talk about the chuck and the jig, and so here we go.
To construct your own Longworth chuck, I suggest you start with a drawing to work out the kinks before committing material. Bits and or pencil lead are much less expensive. Start by drawing lines horizontally and vertically through the center of the page. Then add additional lines at 45-degree angles from the center. Now draw a circle about the size of the faceplate you will use to mount the chuck, plus a little bit, say about another ½ inch. The future arcs cannot come inside this circle. You can adjust the extra with your next drawing. Next, draw another circle at the diameter you have selected for your chuck. Often this is about 1 inch less than the maximum diameter for your lathe. However, the future arcs cannot go to this line. So draw another circle inside this line. Start by subtracting 4 times the diameter of the bolts you will use. We'll call this the outer buffer. If you are not dizzy yet, draw another circle exactly in between circle 1 and circle 3. If the larger circle is 7 inches and the smaller circle is 2, then this circle's diameter is 4.5. Your measures will vary. That's why we are still on paper or a screen. Now for the fun part. Choose an intersection between this last circle and the horizontal line. Using this as a center point of the circle, strike an arc between the far side of the first circle to where it intersects with the outer buffer circle. When and if you create your own chuck with a router, your pivot will be the center of this circle. The cut will follow the line just drawn, staying inside the buffer circle. Repeat this 3 more times for a chuck with 4 bolts. If you want an 8-bolt chuck, repeat this 4 more times using the lines at 45 degrees. Depending on the bolt size and your chuck size, you may need to shorten this arc, not going completely to the innermost circle. Otherwise, your arcs may intersect and or the bolts may come into conflict when the diameter in use is small. That is also why you are drawing this first. Make sure you have taken into account the diameter of bolts and washers for the back side and the posts for the front side. Once you are happy with your plan, you can go to your router and repeat, marking your limits and the pivot points. By temporarily fastening the 2 plates together, you can route the arcs for both at the same time. When finished, flip one over so that the arcs are opposing. However, if you are using a CNC-based tool to make your plates, I suggest that you cut straight grooves for the bolts. I believe the arcs were a requirement for router construction, but for CNC, it is almost the same to draw an arc versus a line. However, I believe straight lines will give a more consistent movement in use. It is hard enough to adjust a Longworth chuck with 4 bolts, harder with 8 bolts. Straight grooves will give a more consistent resistance.
And now that you've seen the theory of it, one thing that I appreciated a long time ago in my business career is I had an analyst working for me. It was when we were both learning how to use personal computers in the very infancy of it. I would learn something, share it with him. He would learn something, share it back with me, and we would in effect leapfrog one another back and forth. In many cases, that's what we do in wood turning also. We learn something, we share it, somebody else learns it, shares back with a twist and a learn, and then we all grow together. Meanwhile, I would appreciate your ideas on how to improve this system for bracelets in particular and small turnings in general. So, write me back. Meanwhile, keep wearing your full face shield just for that extra protection to keep you from harm's way. So, Enjoy!